How's it going? This is another video by me, Mr. Red Fox. And this video is not really a response video, but just a um, general ideas video. In response to someone saying something that he made some good points, but he was a little bit off the chain with his conclusion. So this is this video is from the video I'm talking about is Gaijin Goomba's latest video where he says Nintendo's real competition in Japan is the Vita. Oh god. And the reason he drew this conclusion is because whenever he's been to Japan, he sees a lot of Vitas and like one 3DS and all of his travels. Here's the thing. His argument is, what's the word I'm looking for? Anecdotal. It's based upon anecdotal evidence. The fact of the matter is that there's a few things wrong with his suppositions. So let's first get rid of his anecdotal evidence. First of all, just because you observe something doesn't mean that that is the case. Remember when we were children and we thought, oh, it's raining, so that must mean it's raining everywhere. Well, no, it's just to you, you think it's raining everywhere, but it's really not. That's basically how we used to be when we were little kids. And if we made the conclusion that if it's raining where we are, it's raining everywhere, that was anecdotal. His argument is very similar in that he's like, well, the few times that when I worked in Japan and some other stuff came up, and I left Japan, went back 2 times. I saw one 3DS and I saw a lot of Vitas. Now, here's the thing. I too have been to Japan, and you know what I see even more of than people with their Vitas? I see people with a lot of cell phones, smartphones in particular, and that's not just something that I see anecdotally. If you go to America, you go to Japan, go to Europe, you'll see the numbers don't lie. For every one dedicated gaming device, there are 5 to 8 smartphones in every single market. Period. So for someone like Nintendo, that's a problem. Okay, it eats into their market share because kids that I used to see and we used to see ubiquitously playing with a 3DS or a PSP or a Vita is now playing with a tablet or a smartphone. That's a problem. As far as let's knock that out the way. The first point, well, it's all about the Vita is their problem. Not really, no. It's smartphones. Smartphones are the direct competition for Nintendo's handheld. Not in terms of content offered, but in terms of market share. Okay, Nintendo, which used to dominate market share in terms of handhelds, is now competing with mobile, and they want to create something that's going to blow mobile out the water. So what do? Well, they don't want to compromise what they are because Nintendo is just not going to do that. So they decide to release some games on mobile, but they're like the bootleg, down low rent versions of their stuff. So, like Mario Run. Yeah, it's a Mario game, but if you want a real Mario game, you got to buy their shit. Same thing with Fire Emblem Heroes. It's fine, but is it going to be as impactful as, say, a dedicated Fire Emblem game? No, it's not, because it's just a hint. It's a taste. It's not the real thing. So with that being said, what else can I say? So it leads to his second point, which was the otakus in Japan have Vitas, because the Vita, like, there's still big games coming out for the Vita. Um, Here's the thing. Um, the Vita does well in Japan because it still has it has big games. Well, not big games. It has niche games that a dedicated fan base likes are still coming out for it. Okay. Now in Japan, that's good. But here's the thing you got to notice: if you look at the Vita, its library of games. If you really look at the library of games, you'll notice something quite peculiar. And the peculiarity is this. Okay, the peculiarity is this. If you really look at the Vita's library of games, 90% of the games that come out in Japan never come out here because they have to be localized, and localization is fucking expensive. Now you might ask, well, they're still making games for the Vita. Most of the studios that are making games for the Vita made a lot of games for the PSP. The Vita's architecture is very similar to the PSP. It's basically a super PSP. Okay, a Vita is a PS3 in your hand. A PSP was a PS2 in your hands. Now, here's what Sony is doing with the Vita. The Vita is essentially, for lack of a better word, if the companies that are supporting it in Japan, they don't have to do much to continue to make money off of it. All they essentially have to do is release they're just basically porting the engine that they had from the PSP over to the Vita. Not a hard sell, not difficult to do. On the other hand, in the US it was a bitch because, everything in the US in the Western market is predicated upon graphics over gameplay. So essentially you're dealing with people who are, for lack of a better word, pigeonholing things that really should not be pigeonholed together. And it's not good. So they're two different type brands of developers. In Japan, it's basically they can take the engine that they had for the PSP, dial up the settings a little bit, and boom, they've got a decent amount of gaming going on there. It's quick, it's easy, it gets the job done. I would wager, I don't have the figures right in front of me, but I would wager that if you really looked at the numbers, you would see that maybe 70-80% of the developers who are still releasing huge amounts of games for the for the Vita, probably a lot of them were PSP developers as well. I would wager. I'm not 100%, but I would really wager that. Which leads to my third point: the Switch being a hybrid console. Kind of, but not really. Here's what I think. I think the Switch is a bridge console. I think that it's to bridge the gap between dedicated handhelds and mobile. What I mean by this is essentially they are creating a device which will enable them to recapture some of that dominance they had in the dedicated gaming handheld field, while at the same time still having their cake and eat it too. And the reason I say I think they're still going to do that is because it's just cheaper. I mean, it's easier. You never want to cut off lines of revenue. Okay, if you're a gamer, you never want to cut off. I mean, if you're a company, like if you have 4 lines of revenue, you don't want to get rid of one line in order to have the other. Which is why I don't think Nintendo will give up consoles and handhelds anytime soon. And I think adding Amiibo and all that other shit just adds to the fire of how much shit they can sell you, because you don't want to get rid of lines of revenue. That being said, there is a downside and the downside is actually kind of obvious. The downside is that what does that mean for the 3DS? Well, I think Nintendo's going to ride the 3DS out for another 18 months, 2 years, maybe even 3 years, and then they'll come out with a successor to that because there is a lot of money in it. But with that being said, this is the end of this video. This is just my, I don't want to call it a response, but more like a slight rebuttal to some of the things he said. I agree with some of his points, but the conclusion he drew was a little too small picture, not big picture. So give me your thoughts in the comment section, and good day.